So, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Let's just talk about the election. It was this past Tuesday at the time of this recording, and we're still not certain who our next president will be, but we could take a little bit of a guess. So, let's get into it. So, as you can see here, this is where we stand. 264 electoral college votes for Biden and 214 for Trump. Now, the states that aren't close enough to project the results are Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, and Nevada, and Alaska. So let's take a look at us. Now, this is a cool site, 270 to win. Now, this is a pretty cool site. I discovered it last year, 270 to win, that you can actually play around with the different election results. So let's go ahead and make sure that everything is correct here. We'll make Georgia blue. Now, we made the map just red and blue. And if you look to see, Biden would end up with 310 electoral college votes and Trump would end up with 228. Now, so of some of the contested states, which is Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada. Nevada and Georgia, if the popular vote is within 0.5% for one candidate, then the opposing candidate, either one of the candidates, can request a recount at their expense. Now, if the vote does get overturned, then the politician that called for the recount doesn't have to pay anything. PA, it's automatic. What would give Trump a path to 270? Georgia would have to go red. Pennsylvania would have to go red. And Nevada would have to go red, in which case it would be 268 to 270. So the key states have to flip to red from blue. But as long as Biden holds on to one state, look at the difference, 264 to 274. But Trump would need to win Georgia and Pennsylvania. Now, Trump would have to take back Georgia, take back Pennsylvania, and take back Nevada to win. Now, so you might be asking, why is this state red and blue? It's because it's split up into 3 districts. Because if one portion votes Democrat, which is the case, and the other 2 vote Republican, then those votes get split. So 1 out of the 3 here is blue. The other 2 are red. We say if Trump retakes Georgia and retakes Pennsylvania, as long as Biden holds on to Nevada, this is where we end up. Now, with that being said, there's an unfortunate wild card, and that's called the Electoral College. Because in our country, even though every election is determined by the popular vote, the vote for president is not determined by the popular vote, it's determined by the Electoral College. And guess what? They can vote for Frank the Cat and Tom the Mouse if they want. I've had a few people tell me Oh, but George, there's no such thing as faithless electors anymore. They're called faithless electors when they don't vote the way the popular vote went. So we have here this Supreme Court case. Now, we're not going to go all through all this, okay? I'll just sum this up for you. What this is the electors, 3 Washington electors, these 3, violated their pledges to support Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election. In response, the state fined the electors $1,000 apiece for breaking their pledges to support the same candidate the voters had. The electors challenged their fines in state court, arguing that the Constitution gives members of the Electoral College the right to vote however they please. So tell me about your vote when it comes to the voting for the president. Tell me about it. But what happened was every court said, no, if you are a faithless elector, the state can levy a fine against you. Went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, yes, if you don't vote the way you're supposed to, by popular vote, then the state does have the right to levy a fine against you. If I'm looking to rig an election, which to be clear, I'm not, but if I'm looking to rig an election, am I going to do it by votes? Am I going to, ruin the ballot box, corrupt the ballot box? No, because that can be tracked and traced, and most likely will. Or do I go to one of the electors and say, hey, here's $10,000, you're going to pay it. Here's $11,000. You're going to pay a $1,000 fine. You vote for us. And that isn't trackable or traceable. Not if it's done properly. Not if it's done in person. So I find all this brouhaha about, oh, the dead are voting. It happens every election. The dead vote. They get caught. And it's not 100,000. It's not 10,000. No. It might be 10, 20, 40 for me being generous. No, it just doesn't work that way. Now, this year is the first year I voted by mail. This year was the first year I voted by mail. So they sent me an absentee application. I filled it out, sent it back. Now, keep in mind, this is an absentee application. I'm already registered to vote, so the Board of Elections already has my information. By sending me an application, what they're doing is they're able to verify that everything that I filled out on that application matches the records that they already have on file. Once they do that, they send me the ballot. I filled out the ballot. I put it in the envelope and then put it into the main envelope. It was made very clear that that was the procedure. So I don't understand why it was a big deal for people in Pennsylvania to say, oh, make sure you put the ballot in the one envelope and then put it into the other envelope, otherwise it won't be counted. Well, why would they send you 2 envelopes if you weren't supposed to use both of them? And there was very clear instructions. This proves that I voted. I said, I just voted by mail. I am not afraid of the coronavirus. I'm not afraid of it. I'd have worn a mask and probably did a Cartman and did the 6 feet ruler thing. That would have been fun. I would be more in fear, and I'll put that between air quotes, of the hospital bill, of the doctor bill. If you can't tell, I'm not a young person. Oh, it's statistically blah, 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 you'd be fine. Well, how do you know I wouldn't end up in a doctor's office with that bill? How do you know I wouldn't end up in a hospital with that bill? And then the combination of them both. Can you tell me with 100% certainty that that wouldn't happen? No. Well, hey, that's why I voted by mail. And voting early or going to the voting center, you kind of feel rushed. You kind of feel hurried because, you've been waiting a long time. Other people are waiting to vote. So you kind of want to get it done quickly. So maybe you glance over everything instead of really being able to sit down and just say, okay, there's this and this and this. And that way, it was, to me, a fantastic experience. I'm glad I did it. And I may do it again in the future. It was just very easy. Yeah. These people, I do think it's funny. There's a section of people who say, keep counting, which that's what they're going to do. They're going to keep counting. Then there's this other section of people saying, stop counting, stop counting. It's like, well, maybe they haven't counted yours yet. Did you think about that, Einstein? You want them to stop? Of course they're not going to stop. They're going to keep counting. Because every vote counts. Now, as I was recording this, there was an update. Now, there's been an update in the election, and the Associated Press is calling Biden the winner, that PA has gone for Biden and not Trump. So let's take a look here. We have a difference of over 34,000 votes for Biden versus Trump. This is, I do believe, going to trigger the automatic recount. Yeah, it's going to trigger the automatic recount. And that's fine. They can recount. I would absolutely advocate for them to recount, just to make sure everything's on the up and up. It's why they do these things, to make sure the integrity of the election process is not being corrupted, that maybe some mistakes were made. Well, they have a chance to go back, revisit it, and fix maybe what errors happened, because errors happen. So changing our map, we put PA to blue, and we put Nevada to red, and we're keeping Georgia red. Biden still wins as long as the Electoral College votes for who they're supposed to be voting for. And in PA, I have little doubt that that's going to trigger that automatic recount. So they're going to be recounting, and that's fine. Big deal. Not a big deal. Not something unprecedented. They should be recounting, just to make sure the integrity of the vote count is proper. Now, those are just my thoughts on the election. I don't understand why everything's controversial, everything's a conspiracy. It's not that way. The election is nothing new. There are checks and balances within the voting system to eliminate, not completely, but it's a minuscule amount of voting fraud. Voting registration fraud is really not relevant. That's not voter fraud. Voter fraud is when a ballot is cast that is fraudulent. That is concerning. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.